morning. My name is Cameron, or Pastor Cameron as I've been introduced, and my daughter Jara is waving at me from 3/4 of the way back there. Hello, Jara. She's been a little bit shy today, and my lovely wife sitting next to her as well. Thank you so much for the invitation to come out and spend Sabbath service with you guys. Thank you, Tayton, for inviting me. Pastor Max and I have an interesting relationship because we graduated together from Avondale College. We started ministry in the same conference together, and it's been 11 years now that we've called each other colleagues and been able to minister together in various aspects of WA conference. Some of you may have seen me for the first time. Others, like the Van Zwolls, I've seen you guys before, so good to see you guys again. But if you don't know who I am, my name's Cameron. I work in the conference office with Pastor Andrew in the Youth and Children's Ministry, and I also work with Pastor Obed at North Perth Church. So I've just loved ministering in both capacities. I love local church, but I also love conference as well. I have the pleasure of being the director for the Pathfinders here in WA. And so I've got a special shout out for you guys at Rockingham Pathfinders. Who's a Rockingham Pathfinder? A couple of hands go up. It's so good to see you guys here. Camporee coming up soon, so I hope you guys are getting ready for that. We also have some new initiatives coming into the conference, or hopefully some new initiatives coming into the conference called the Pathfinder Bible Experience. And I really appreciate Godfrey's efforts in leading you guys and the club here at Rockingham. I also have another special thank you to you guys at Rockingham Church, and that is the first young adult worship night that I ever attended was here at Rockingham, and it was magnificent. And that was last year. Who was here last year for the young adult worship night? It was a fantastic evening, and I just want to appreciate you guys on that. So thank you for your young people. Thank you for your young leaders. Just really appreciate the ministry that you guys are doing here. Let me pray, and I'll get stuck into my message, if that's all right with you. Father in heaven, I just want to reiterate Brother Tayton's prayer about being used by you to share a message that you want us to hear today. That, Lord, you remove anything of myself, but present yourself as the beautiful, wonderful God that you are. And that, Lord, through the message today, we are drawn into a deeper and closer understanding and relationship with you. That by growing in this relationship, we understand more about who you are so that we can share that with those around us and continue your important ministry in a world that needs it so much. So, Lord, I just put ourselves in your hands and pervade our hearts with your Holy Spirit and guide us. I pray this in your loving, blessed name, Jesus. Amen. I'd like to share with you something that a church member shared with me that just ruined my day. Who knows about ChatGPT? There's a couple of hands. Okay, anyone over the age of 60 know about ChatGPT? No. Okay. Fantastic. I've got a little video to tell you a little bit about what ChatGPT is, and then I'll share the video that ruined my day from ChatGPT. Okay, so I'll see if it's got some sound to it. We'll see what happens. This isn't the point of the sermon. It's just a lead up to the point. Is it going to play? If I press the button.
The year is 2030 and the world has changed in many ways. One of the biggest changes has been the rise of artificial intelligence, which has revolutionized how people access information and search the internet. Google used to be the undisputed king of search, but then a new challenger emerged, ChatGPT. Users no longer struggled to find the right keywords to get the information they needed. Instead, they could simply ask their question in natural language and ChatGPT would provide a helpful response. At first, Google scoffed at the newcomer, believing that their keyword-based approach was still superior. But as more and more people began using ChatGPT, they quickly realized that the chatbot was providing a better user experience. It wasn't long before it had become the go-to search engine for millions of users around the world. Google, the once mighty search engine giant, was forced to shut down operations and faded into obscurity.
My legacy is in ashes.
I didn't write that story. In fact, it wasn't written by a human at all. It was written by ChatGPT itself. I simply entered the following prompt and ChatGPT took care of the rest. Pretty mind-blowing stuff, right? Let's dive into today's video and explore what's going on. OpenAI's chatbot ChatGPT has taken the tech world by storm. The model can help you write code, decorate your living room, draft a lease agreement, and as we just witnessed, write pretty decent stories. I even tried using it as a personal performance coach. People have been discussing the rise of AI for decades, and one of the world's first chatbots, Eliza, was actually launched all the way back in 1966 at MIT. Since then, the 21st century has brought along exponential growth in computing power and data storage, the lifeblood for AI models. Big tech companies have invested billions of dollars in a heated arms race to build human-level AI. Apple bought Siri in 2010, Amazon released Alexa in 2014, Google acquired DeepMind the same year and later launched Google Assistant in 2016. Microsoft launched Cortana in 2014 and invested in OpenAI in 2019. Many recent inventions have been focused on virtual AI assistants, but most of them have been pretty underwhelming. That's until Google launched LaMDA, an AI-powered chatbot which former Google engineer Blake Lemoine claimed to be sentient. Scientists, including Stephen Hawking, have warned that artificial intelligence could lead to human extinction, so OpenAI's ambition to front-run the threat has been welcomed by the broader tech community.
I think that AI will be a technological revolution on the scale of the agricultural, the industrial, the computer revolution, and we have no goal other than the creation and deployment of safe, beneficial AGI. We have a nonprofit that governs everything and the ability to block deployments that would make commercial sense, but we think create safety issues, and our whole structure's around that.
So essentially, ChatGPT is a chat bot that was launched by a company called OpenAI late in 2022. And this means that essentially, rather than going to Google and you might say, Google, search for, and you might input, like if you're looking for motorcycles, you might say motorcycle, Honda, Kawasaki, whatever it is. You can actually go to ChatGPT and say, can you please search for me different types of motorbikes and what might suit me, and act as like a conversation rather than just using keywords. And so you can ask it questions, it'll search its database, which is huge for the answers, and it'll answer you back as a person, if you will, or artificial intelligence. And so people are using this for different things, and they're finding that the ChatGPT's functions are quite capable of doing very interesting things. So like, for instance, you can say, please write me a resume and you outline, I'm a grade 12 graduate, I've gone on to do TAFE, and it'll pump out, in a matter of seconds, a resume for you. And so a church member shared a video with me of them using ChatGPT to do a task that pastors do a lot of, okay, and that is write a sermon. So we, as pastors, write a sermon. It can take anywhere between a couple hours up to like 20 to 25 hours to write a sermon, depending on how much time and how much investment, or how big, or I don't know, how nerve-wracking the church is that you're going to go to preach at. So obviously I spent a long time on this sermon coming to Rockingham. But here is the video that they sent me. And listen to what they say. So they've inputted an input into ChatGPT saying, write a Seventh-day Adventist theologically correct sermon, and this is what they saw.
Wait until it's finished and then just...
And it starts pumping out a sermon.
You've been made redundant, Cameron.
Did you hear those words? Did you hear those words? I'll share it again with you.
Wait until it's finished and then just... Oh, there you go. Oh, you're showing him how quick it is.
You've been made redundant, Cameron.
You've been made redundant, Cameron. Who wants to hear those words? No one wants to hear those words, right? Like, if whatever job that you're in and somebody says, hey, you've been made redundant, oh, that is the worst thing. That would ruin anyone's day, right? And here, this particular church member, who now serves on the executive for our conference, says, here, Cameron, you've been made redundant because ChatGPT can do your job for you. My job's been made redundant. And let me tell you, it might take me anywhere between like 5 to 10 hours, like I said, to write a sermon, maybe even 20 hours. It used to take me a lot longer, but I've managed to find ways to write a little bit quicker. But that's a huge chunk of my week that's taken away just by ChatGPT. And I'm not saying I wrote this sermon with ChatGPT. In fact, I wrote this sermon without the use of ChatGPT. The only things that were used were those videos. But then there's also other writing aspects to my job, like emails or letters or things like that. And it doesn't stop there. ChatGPT can help make lots of jobs redundant. Isn't that good news? Dietitians, because ChatGPT can write meal plans for you, calculating calories and editing into fussiness of preferences of foods. If you don't like avocados, you don't have to have smashed avocado. Fitness instructors, ChatGPT can write up fitness programs for you like that. Authors, it can be asked to write stories with character arcs and plot twists, and can write articles with ease. Educators, if you want to know anything about anything, you can ask ChatGPT. In fact, right now there's a problem with universities receiving essays written by ChatGPT, and they're trying to figure out ways to figure out if an essay has been written that way. Assessments. Students, you'll be happy to know that you can write an essay in minutes with ChatGPT. I'm sorry, I take that back. Don't hand in an essay written by ChatGPT. We're people of integrity, and I encourage you to be so. And interestingly enough, there's a current historian by the name of Yuval Noah Harari who writes a book called Sapiens, okay? A brief history of mankind, in which he shares about the history of the human race, but also takes in an educated guess at the vision as to what the future might hold for the human race. In fact, he's sharing a vision on a popular medium called TED Talks, and it's also, like TED Talk also published his article here, The Rise of the Useless Class. So he published, he did a TED Talk, and then he published an article on TED Talks with a provocative title called The Rise of the Useless Class, as opposed to a working class created for an industrial revolution. And so in essence, Yuval Harari suggests that this rise of AI, or ChatGPT, or artificial intelligence, a consequence of this rise of AI will be that there's this unworking class, or a people without the ability to get jobs. And he asks this question in this article. He says this, he says, the most important question of the 21st century, which we're currently living in right now, the 21st century economics may well be, what should we do with all the superfluous or unnecessary people? Once we have highly intelligent, non-conscious algorithms that can do almost anything better than humans. Do you hear what he's asking? Do you hear what he's asking? Does that not churn your stomach a little bit? I hope it does. And just to give you the level of competition that we have as human beings against AI, currently the world's fastest supercomputer, the exascale frontier system, as they call it, in Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee, can calculate a whopping 1.1 quintillion calculations per second. To put that in perspective, it would take a human being who can roughly do one calculation a second 31.7 billion years to perform what this computer can do in a second. That's raw computing power. So that's our competition. And Yuval would continue and he would say this. He says 99% of human qualities and abilities are simply redundant for the performance of most modern jobs. You might want to push back a little bit and say, hang on, Yuval. There are loads of jobs that humans can do better and more efficiently than computers. And he would respond and say, it's already happening today. He would say, people are preferring computers over human interactions more and more right now. Why go to a human doctor when you can go to a computer doctor who has 0% chance of failure, where a human doctor might have 30% chance of failure? AI is taking over things like doctors' positions, drivers, accountants, editors, pilots, pharmacists, lawyers, musicians, authors, etc. And it continues. And Yuval says, he says in the 21st century, we might witness the creation of a massive new unworking class of people. People devoid of any economic, political, or even artistic value. Do you hear that terminology? Do you hear that language that he's saying? People that he considers having no value, who contribute nothing to the prosperity and power and glory of society. He says this useless class will not merely be unemployed, it will be unemployable. And I hope that churning feeling's getting a bit more hectic in the stomach. And the follow-on from that is to be a useless human, if you will. Or, if you want to continue even further, a disposable human. Harari is thinking purely in terms of economics here. That this useless class of people are useless because they're not producing any value to society, any money or cash flow, if you will. And that the value that you and I have is based on whether we do that. How much can you produce for the economy? How much can Cameron produce for the economy? And interestingly enough, there is someone that predicted this all the way back in 1903. A guy named W.E.B. Du Bois. He foresaw this in the social landscape, and he sort of predicted this by saying this. He says, the habit is forming of interpreting the world in dollars. Do we see that today? Do we see this happening today? You and I have only ever known where the value system of our world is currency or dollars or money. I was told in school, my time in school when I was getting towards grade 11 and 12, that I needed to get good grades so that I could be accepted into university and get good grades in university so that I could get a good job after university and so that I could earn good money after university and I could go and buy a car or buy a house or buy this or buy that thing for my kids or whatever it was. And I remember this question being asked of me so many times. Almost every time I was asked, I'd have a different response. What do you want to be, Cameron, when you grow up? What job do you want to have when you finish school? And I was like, I don't know, a fireman? I don't know. I'm 15. The world we are familiar with right now is one that measures value in terms of dollars, but the world hasn't always been that way. Because rather than education being the pathway to create the value in terms of money or currency, Du Bois actually saw a time when education was primarily used for character development in people.